Well, hello out there. I'm T.M. Brown, and welcome to another reading from my very first book, A Life Not My Own. I'm so excited that you guys continue to join me on this journey. My intent is to share more with you than you'd experience if you read the story on your own. You may decide that you want to read along with me, and that's really cool, so feel free to grab a copy of my book through my website at www.authortmbrown.com. We started with the very first page, and we're going to work our way through the book. We are in the chapter called Ma, and on page 22. Are you ready? Ma did all the housekeeping except for making our beds. The only requirement that she placed on us was to make our beds prior to having breakfast in the morning. She never seemed tired or upset about any of the household responsibilities that she had. She placed a lot of pride in her housekeeping. It ain't clean if it don't smell clean. They just nasty. Look at them sheets on that line. Now she know a little bleach can get them just as white as they was the day she bought them. We might not have much, but it's clean. Every once in a while, you got to get down on your hands and knees to get into the corners if you want your floor to be really clean. Ain't no reason for nobody to be dirty in this house. Ma used to save our soap shavings in a box in the linen closet. And she meant it when she said there wasn't any need for anybody to be dirty. She wasn't the type that would sit down and have discussions about life with me. I had to spend time with her to understand her ways. I had to watch her. I am proud to say that I've incorporated a lot of the lessons that I learned while growing up in my grandmother's house into my own home. We moved several times during the first few years that we lived with Ma and Frank. Some of the houses weren't in the best neighborhoods, weren't structurally sound, or didn't accommodate our family's needs. Eventually, we settled on the outskirts of Baltimore City in a low-rent community called Fairfield Homes. This was a nice neighborhood when we moved there, with manicured lawns, clean streets, playgrounds, and lots of children. The houses were brick, two-story row homes with small front and backyards. Fairfield's humble beginnings were based on agriculture. It was one of the nation's earliest free African American settlements. The land on which Fairfield is located was actually a peninsula. The community was originally built to house the workers in a nearby cannery. We moved into the community in 1970, so I was 10 years old. My Aunt Anne and her 5 children lived right down the street from us. We were really excited about living so close to them. I would spend the rest of my childhood and became an adult there. There was a routine in my life now. I knew what was expected of me and, for the most part, behaved as required. My biggest problem as a child was learning to act like a child. I found it difficult to relate to most children who were my age as a result of the responsibilities that Betty had placed on me when I was younger. Making mud pies, playing hopscotch, or playing with dolls were activities of little interest to me. Ma would buy special toys for me, hoping that I'd play outside more, but I was quite content to watch war movies, sports, or musicals on TV with Frank rather than playing with the neighborhood children. I didn't feel as though I had anything in common with them at all. They seemed totally unaware of the world beyond their backyards. I now understand that's totally okay. The television was still my best friend. As a child, I would watch a television show and daydream of visiting some of the faraway places such as France, England, or Germany, getting married and having a family of my own, or contemplate the many professions that I might have. It was also the time that I spent with Frank. He would talk to me about the places he had visited when he was in World War II. When we watched TV together, especially the old war movies, I found his comments interesting, making movies more realistic to me. Frank would ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and like most children, my answer changed at least a dozen times. But no matter what my answer was, Frank would always say the same thing. "Oh, that's nice. You'll make a good one." His response meant a lot to me. I was hesitant about expressing my feelings, and prior to this time, no one had asked. I didn't want to be ridiculed. But more than that, I wanted him to validate my dreams. I wanted to know that there was someone who felt as I did about the possibilities out there for me. Frank was a funny man, but very quiet about his inner feelings. Like Ma, I had to spend time with him to really get to know him. There was never a doubt in my mind that he loved me. I remember when I was a small child, I tried to wrap my arms all the way around him, but he was much too large for that. He had a jolly laugh that I loved to hear. As soon as he'd arrive home from work each day, I'd run to him, attempt to do my wraparound hug, and listen to his laughter. As a child, I thought he was the funniest person I knew. It was the impromptu nature of his sense of humor that Mac, Sharon, and I enjoyed. He could make the most serious situations seem funny. Ma was very strict about allowing us to cook in her kitchen. As we became older and supposedly more responsible, her rules about the kitchen lessened. One day, my sister Sharon decided to heat her peanut butter sandwich in the toaster. The little plastic handle on the toaster stuck as Ma was trying to use it the following day. She forced the handle down, it broke, and the metal under the handle lodged into the meaty portion of Ma's hand. We were all crying. We had never taken Ma to the hospital before. Sharon was really scared and felt responsible for the accident. We sat in the waiting room for what seemed like forever. Frank sat with us while the doctor was seeing Ma. By the time Ma returned to the waiting room, Frank had Mac, Sharon, and I laughing so hard we had tears in our eyes. "So what's funny?" Ma said. "Ma, I'm sorry," said Sharon, crying and laughing at the same time. "It's okay, baby. It wasn't your fault. Now you know not to put peanut butter in the toaster. We're going to throw that old toaster away as soon as we get home, okay?" Ma said as she hugged Sharon. "Okay," Sharon said, crying and laughing at the same time. Frank was still making funny faces while Ma was talking. We got in the car and laughed all the way home. Fairfield was a nice place to live when I was a child. People took pride in the upkeep of their homes. Through the maintenance office, residents of the community were supplied with lawn tools, grass and flower seeds, paint, materials to build fences, etc. Most homes were meticulously groomed. The residents within each row of homes would help one another in maintaining the appearance of the neighborhood. There were even awards given for the prettiest yard in the block. There was also a recreation center in the community. Most of the children, including Mac, Sharon, and me, attended summer camp there. A minimum fee was paid for the service, and all the children who attended were guaranteed to have a great summer. The summer program consists of outdoor sports such as tennis, basketball, baseball, swimming, and special day trips to locations such as the Washington, D.C. Zoo, skating rinks, and nearby parks. It was a great way to spend the summer. Fairfield Homes was a community like many others in Baltimore City during that time frame. There was a feeling of safety, but most of all, pride in our community. Most of the adult residents were employed but found themselves in low-rent housing out of a need to provide a better life for their families. Even in the 1970s, the wheels of progress were moving quite slow. Discrimination was still very much alive within Baltimore City. It seemed to me that most blacks, at least the ones I knew, felt comfortable living among each other rather than living in racially diverse communities, a concept that at the time seemed to be practiced by the well-to-do. Even within the middle-class neighborhoods, blacks lived separately for the most part. There were areas in the city which were considered nice and were also predominantly black, such as Edmondson Village, Druid Hill Park, and portions of Ricestown Road. The houses in these areas were one-family, two-story dwellings that consist of 3 or 4 bedrooms, 2 or more baths, dining rooms, lawns, etc. There was even a black newspaper called the Afro. This newspaper was where many blacks searched for information on employment, housing, and entertainment. What a wonderful thing it was to be a kid without a care in the world. Thanks to Ma and Frank, at 11 or 12, my only concern was how fast I could rush home from school, have dinner, and play outside until the street lights came on. In those days, children played outside, not because we had to, but because we wanted to. There was no colored television to mesmerize us, no Nintendo, no PlayStation, or other video games, just our imaginations. And I apologize for those examples, but the first version of A Life Not My Own was published in 2012, but it took me many years to actually transcribe my journal into this book. So some of the references are kind of old. I think we're going to stop right here. I am currently working on getting my subscription to Spreaker.com extended so that my readings will at least capture one chapter at a time. So I hope that you will continue to join me here. I hope that you will subscribe, like, and share. And I look forward to sharing the next installment of A Life Not My Own with you. Again, if you want to pick up a copy of the book, you can get that from my website, www.authortmbrown.com. I hope that you are enjoying the readings. It's bringing back a lot of memories, some good, some not so good. But I hope that you will be encouraged to live your lives through hearing of my experiences. Talk to you soon. Bye.